Hey, are you a high achiever who struggles with perfectionism? Do you get stuck in the cycle of overthinking? Do you do everything for everyone else because you think otherwise it won't get done? Do you feel like you should come with a disclaimer? Hi, I'm anxious. Hey, I'm Katy. Full disclosure, I'm not a therapist, doctor, or mental health professional. I'm just a career mama who also struggles with anxiety. For me, anxiety reared its head at the most inconvenient times when I wanted to be present with my family, at those high pressure business meetings, when I was laying in bed awake at night worrying instead of sleeping. I just wanted to relax and be able to have fun, and I know that you do too. What if you found tools to manage your anxiety? What if you knew how to enjoy life even though you are anxious? Look, it's time to put down that third cup of coffee and swap it for some lemon water. We're going to get control over anxiety so it can stop controlling you. Let's go, girl. Sweet soul, welcome. I'm so glad that you're joining me today. This is kind of an exciting time of year at the time that this podcast is going to air. This episode is airing, in that the holiday season is still upon us and we're going into the new year, which is a time where people oftentimes will reflect on their life and how things are going and if it's going the way they want or not. And they'll think about doing goal setting or New Year's resolutions or vision boarding. And I'm sure you're one of those people who does something like this on a regular basis, if not just this time of year, sweet soul. And so we're going to be continuing our discussion about overthinking. We've been doing a series on overthinking to date. If you haven't already listened to episodes 111, 112, and 113, take some time to go back and do that. They're short, sweet, and actionable, and they will get you prepared for this next step that I'm going to be talking to you about today, sweet anxious soul. And I'm just so excited to help you with this because I know that overthinking can really plague us as anxious high achievers and add to that anxiety and spinning and waste precious mental energy and brain space that doesn't need to be wasted otherwise. So last week, you took some time to think about when and where and how overthinking was showing up for you, and you were paying attention to particular patterns that may have emerged for you. And so this week, what I want you to do is take one area of overthinking, whether it's a certain time of day that it hits you, or a certain topic that comes up, or a certain location where it comes up for you. And I'm going to have you do one thing this next week for yourself preemptively to help you avoid that overthinking in the first place, or to help you through it quickly if and when it does come up. So I'm going to run you through a couple of examples from my own life and that of some clients that I have, and I'm hoping that this will help you in future. So one example is, and this is from my own life, and I find it interesting that this came up for me a lot when I was postpartum after having my babies, and I think it's because my schedule changed so very drastically, not to mention all of the hormonal changes I had going on, lack of sleep, etc. But I found myself really spinning and overthinking when it came to spending, particularly spending on products for my child, whether it was diapers or wipes or food for future. What am I going to feed them when they start eating solids? I know if you are a mommy and you have had children, you can relate to these kind of interesting postpartum bird walks that your mind can take you on, especially during the night when you're sitting there awake in the chair nursing your baby and have all kinds of crazy things running through your mind, or interesting things running through your mind. But what you can do, or what I did to get through this, is you can decide what a value or guideline might be for purchases. So, for example, if using organic, natural, non-toxic products is a priority for you, you don't need to sit and waste your time thinking about other criteria for making that selection. That is going to be your guideline you're going to use to make those decisions by. You're going to search for an available product that meets those criteria and make your decision. I wouldn't sit and worry about, oh, is this one cent more or less than the other? Unless that's something that you have to do in your life. And then is that really overthinking? Probably not. It's just a necessity for you, if that makes sense. Another area of life that I have seen this kind of overthinking thing come up for a lot for people is when it comes to eating. I was recently talking with a client about this, and they talked about how they wanted to choose a healthier diet and they wanted to also save money. But what they would catch themselves doing is going to work and on their way stopping to pick up breakfast or going out to lunch. And they weren't doing those things for reasons that they liked. For example, it was an actual um, treat, not something that was happening on a daily basis, or that they were enjoying lunch with a friend. Rather, it was just a choice that they were making because they didn't make other choices in advance to set themselves up for decisions that were going to make them feel better about themselves long term. So, what they started doing was packing food. And that takes some planning, that takes some prep. They had to think about, what would I feel better eating? What do I want to choose to eat in advance? I need to go purchase those things. I need to prep them. I need to pack them the morning of and not forget them so that I have them ready. That is interestingly something that I personally have not struggled with because I developed those habits a while ago. Now, does that mean that I don't on occasion show up to work and I've got no snacks packed, I've got no meals packed, and don't have any plans other than when I get hungry, I'm gonna have to go figure something out, and I maybe sometimes make poor food choices in the moment. Yeah, that happens to me on occasion. But overall, that's not something I struggle with because I have the habit of planning in advance for that, selecting food that's healthy, making sure that it's available in the house, making sure that I've packed it the morning of and I've brought it with me, making sure that it's available and I'm turning to that rather than going, oh, that salad, it doesn't look very good. Instead, I'd like to drive down the street and get some fast food because that sounds better instead. And so this person started thinking of ways that they could incorporate some preparation to have food available to them that was something that was healthy, something that would make them feel good, and something that also didn't cost, 10, 15, $20 per meal, as opposed to what they were spending when they were going out to eat. And then another example that I want to give you is when it comes to exercise or physical movement. And now this is an experiment that I've done with myself for about the past 6 months or so, and what a difference it has made in my life. I grew up pretty, I would call physically active or athletic. I was in gymnastics, I was in dance, I was constantly moving. I think at the height of my physical prowess, I was doing gymnastics for 4 hours a day and then a 2 hour ballet class. And then I was riding bike for fun the rest of the day. It's just how I was. And then life happened and I became a parent and I work and I have a business. And it's a little bit more difficult for me to fit exercise into my life. And so what I finally did, actually, sometime in the spring or summer, it was more spring. Anyway, I gave myself grace and I told myself, look, I'm not going to put some sort of label on what exercise must be or needs to be. Instead, I am going to strategize to fit more physical movement into my life. So here are some ways you can do that. I already use standing desks. I have them at home and at work. I just prioritized using them more than I had in the past so that I'm naturally getting a little bit more physical movement. I started prioritizing taking walks. I remember when I used to scoff at walking as exercise, and now look at me, here I am walking as exercise. And what I had to learn is that what my body needs now and how it reacts now is completely different than how it did when I was in my teens, for example. My hormones are different, my structure is different, and my lifestyle is just simply different. And so giving myself some grace and understanding for what my body needs and responds to has helped, and then just making it happen too. So, one way that I made this happen was I would strategize a walking break at work around a conversation or meeting that I needed to have. and I would put in my earbuds and make that phone call while I was outside walking. And I had to be really strategic about this because I needed to make sure I wouldn't need to have access to some paperwork or my computer for the phone call. It could just be a conversation that needed to be had. And likewise with the walking meetings. And people reacted so well to that and started asking me for them in return, which was really helpful to me. It helped keep me accountable. Yes, we need to talk about that. Why don't we do that at this time when we go outside for a quick walk together? And so I want you to think of ways to help yourself plan in advance areas that you're overthinking about. So I gave the example about overthinking about exercise and how you can overcome that in advance. So I planned these small tweaks, if you will, using tools I had available to me at my disposal. And after that period of time, I was amazed at the transformation I had physically and mentally. I felt better overall. I physically felt better and could notice a difference in my body. Even though I wasn't doing anything that drastic, just walking more, I could tell a difference. I was amazed at how I noticed my pace quickened and I had a little bit more stamina at the end of the walks too. And that just felt so very good. So, dear sweet soul, I hope that these examples that I gave can help you as you think through your own unique situations where you struggle with overthinking so that you can do some preparing, some planning in advance to do some small things, small tweaks. What is one small micro step that you can take for yourself to help yourself get through that overthinking when it comes up in the moment, or avoid it altogether because you've set yourself up for success in advance. And I hope that you'll really take some time with this, and it might take some trial and error, and it probably will be a slow process, but that's okay because you don't get into overthinking patterns suddenly and drastically. Typically, they develop over time, and the same is going to be true in reverse to get through them or get out of them. Sweet Anxious High Achiever, that's all I have for you today. I sure hope that you are a member of my free Facebook group, and if you're not, please come join us. The link to join is in the show notes. It's an incredible community full of sweet, high-achieving women just like you and me who are there to support, encourage, and uplift one another. It's where I go to connect with my audience. I love to see your faces. I love to hear your voices. I love to read your words. I'd love to be there to support and encourage you. If you need some help with the work that we've been doing together here on the podcast, it just brings me such great joy. So again, the link to join is in the show notes. I would love to have you there. Community is really important, especially in today's age where you might be constantly surrounded by people or ability to connect like via a cell phone, but sometimes we lack in real depth of connections. And that might be one way that you can get some for yourself. I've got some exciting things planned for the new year coming up for the group, and I can't wait to share them with you. So again, the link to join is in the show notes. Please come join us there. Thanks so much for joining me, sweet soul. I can't wait to talk with you again next week. Take care. Hey friend, thanks for being here. Did today's episode help you feel more in control of your anxiety? Did it inspire you to rest or relax? Or maybe it challenged you to really look at why anxiety is a part of your life? If so, I'd love to hear from you. If you would take 30 seconds, pause this episode, scroll down in Apple Podcasts, and leave me a review, I would be so grateful. See you next week. Disclaimer, I am not a medical professional, and this podcast is not providing therapy or medical treatment. Contents of the podcast are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider with your health questions and concerns.